Do you ever find yourself bottling things up until you explode, or swallowing your feelings just to try and keep the peace, but then becoming more anxious and resentful every time you do that until you eventually blow your stack? It doesn't have to be that way. Today I'm going to explain how to express yourself clearly and confidently, without turning it into a meltdown or a full-blown rant. Because speaking up doesn't have to mean blowing up. Being honest about what you think, feel, or need isn't rude or mean, it's healthy, but it's about how you deliver your message. Actually, let me know in the comments, when was the last time you said something you instantly regretted? So, let's talk about how to speak up without losing your cool, and how learning to pause before reacting can completely transform your relationships and your mental health. Let's be honest here. Most of us have a default way of reacting when our emotions are running high. Maybe you get defensive. Maybe you shut down. Maybe you go into fix-it mode. Or maybe you're like me and your default is to lash out before you even know what you're saying. Then feel terrible later as you try to clean up the mess you just made. None of that makes you a bad person. It just means you've learned a survival strategy that made sense at some point. But that doesn't mean it still serves you. By the way, I'm Jeremy, a counselor and writer who went through years of depression and anxiety, and now I make better mental health simple with no-nonsense advice that actually helps, based on what I wish I'd have had when I was struggling. So what we're talking about today is how to shift out of reactive mode and move into intentional response mode, where you're still being honest, but you're not burning bridges or hurting yourself and others in the process. And it all starts with the pause. The pause is the moment between feeling something and acting on it. It's the moment between stimulus and response, if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl. And while the pause might only be a few seconds long, it can change absolutely everything. When you take a short pause, even just one breath, instead of just reacting based on pure instinct, you're giving your nervous system a chance to reset and allowing your rational mind to catch up with your emotions. That alone can prevent so many unnecessary arguments, misunderstandings, or moments you later regret. In terms of your mental health, learning to pause helps to reduce emotional overwhelm and break the cycle of reactive behavior, which tends to lead to messiness, drama, and chaos, none of which are great for your mental or emotional well-being. And when it comes to your relationships, it means you're more likely to be heard, respected, and taken seriously, because you're choosing to respond with intention, not just react from emotion. It's a small habit with big impact, and it's something you can start practicing straight away. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to guide you through 5 simple steps you can take to speak up without losing your cool. So let's talk about how to stop reacting and start responding. Step 1. Learn your emotional triggers. When you know what sets you off, you can start to interrupt the pattern. That's not about avoiding your emotions, it's about recognizing them early. Maybe it's when someone talks over you, or when your opinion is dismissed, or when someone expects you to just go along with something without asking. Start paying attention to the moments where your heart rate spikes or your jaw tightens. Those are clues that you're about to default into reaction mode. Make a note of these clues over the next couple of weeks, and then review them to see what patterns and themes emerge. The more you know about yourself, the more you can figure out how to develop and grow. Step 2. Build a buffer zone. This is all about the moment between emotion and action, and it's everything. When something upsets you or when you feel yourself getting angry, tell yourself it's time to pause. Take a breath, Remind yourself that you don't have to respond right away. In fact, one of the most powerful things you can say in a heated interaction is, "Let me take a moment to think about that." Consciously giving yourself a moment gives your rational brain time to catch up with your feelings so you can process things in a more balanced way. And that's where your power lies. Step 3. Use clear, calm language. This is where your message gets heard. Focus on the facts, your feelings, and what you need. You can use a simple formula. When this happened, I felt this, and what I need is this. It's not about being robotic, it's about being respectful. By having this sort of structured formula in your head, it makes it easier to stay calm and find the right words, which is hard to do when you're trying to prevent your head from exploding. And it also helps you get to the point without turning it into an attack, which saves a lot of mess later. Step 4. Know when to walk away. Tony Childs may have told us back in 1988, don't walk away, but sometimes it's the healthiest thing you can do. Not every conversation needs to happen right now, and not every person is ready to hear you. Learning to speak up also means learning to pick your moment. If someone's not listening or the environment isn't safe, it's okay to hit pause and come back to it later. Speaking up should feel safe, and that includes protecting your own peace of mind. Step 5. Reflect and refine. Every time you express yourself in a thoughtful way, you're rewiring your default setting. You're proving to yourself that you can speak up without losing your cool. And so, you need to review your progress along the way so you can keep on heading in the right direction. So, after any time that you've applied the pause like this, take a moment to reflect. What worked? What didn't? What could you try differently next time? Reflection is how you learn, and learning is how you grow. Here's the thing. Responding versus reaction is a choice. How you communicate shapes your relationships, your self-respect, and your mental health. And learning to pause before reacting is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. It's not always easy, but with practice, it does get easier. So, the next time you feel that emotional wave rising, stop for a moment, take a breath, and choose how you want to show up. Because you get to rewrite your default settings. What's your default reaction when someone pushes your buttons? Let me know in the comments and let's talk about it. You're definitely not the only one. If you want to go deeper into this topic, then I'll be exploring the importance of expressing yourself in my next episode. I'll link it here once it's released. Follow or subscribe now so you don't miss it, and sign up to my free mailing list at ltamh.com to receive new episodes in your inbox every week. You might also find my episode about thinking before you act helpful, so check that out next. I'll link it in the description as well. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.